Here's a fresh idea. The dairy industry is committing to carbon neutrality by 2050. Dairy is a firm staple of the American household. For centuries, dairy farming has been critical to our economy and environment. But today, for farmers to produce dairy that's as sustainable as it is delicious, some powerful new approaches are underway. So what's on the horizon? Every time a cow belches or poops, it comes with a release of methane, a greenhouse gas. Of course, most human activity releases emissions. But if the cows themselves emit methane, how can dairy farmers move the needle on greenhouse gases? Ever hear of cow power? That's the conversion of methane into usable energy, called biogas. That energy can then supplement electric power for entire communities. And while cow power and cows look different across the country, every dairy farm innovates for sustainable progress. So let's see how dairy farmers get it done. First off, diet. Dairy farmers can feed their cows a diet that reduces methane, resulting in belches with less methane from the start. Secondly, the four-chambered stomach. A dairy cow unlocks nutrients from the parts of plants humans can't eat. This minimizes food waste, which in turn reduces emissions from landfills. Third is the digester. Many dairy farmers have installed biodigesters to generate energy from manure. As it breaks down cow waste, biogas is generated and captured. That can be used for electricity, heat, compressed natural gas, and even vehicle fuel.
Their manure actually can give you additional power to manage the whole farm. So the rest is also a fertilizer that you use your crops to grow.
In 2018, cow power from digesters led to greenhouse gas reductions equivalent to taking nearly 1 million cars off the road for a year. Sustainably raised and fed dairy cows means more methane reductions, more energy for our communities, and more nutritious dairy products in our food system.
If everybody could have access to milk and animal source food, then you would eliminate a lot of the nutritional imbalance that we see.
Having the dairy industry go carbon neutral by 2050 is a big goal. And while there's still work to do, cow power is one important step. So while it seems like just a carton of milk, a spoonful of yogurt, or a slice of cheese, dairy can also be a part of an environmental solution.
Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to our virtual farm tour today. It is a little disappointing we weren't able to get you out to an actual farm, but this is probably the next best thing. Are you guys all connected through your professor's video chat? You can reply right in the chat box below. Okay, I'm gonna assume you guys are all connected just through your professors. So hello everyone, my name is Lauren. I work here at UDIM. We are the United Dairy Industry of Michigan. Oh, perfect, thank you. We saw only one connection, we're a little concerned, great. Okay, so at UDIM, we basically represent all of the dairy farmers in Michigan. So I think of it as basically the PR for farmers because, you know, they're busy all day long. They can't be getting connections with people. They can't be going to events. They can't be everywhere. They can only do so much, and they have a lot going on to take care of their cows and make sure they're properly cared for. So my name is Lauren. I am the nutrition outreach specialist here. I went to Michigan State with my undergrad for nutrition, and then I just finished up my master's at Grand Valley. And let me share my slides with you guys. So we are going to start by talking a little bit about what UDIM is, and then we're going to go over to Farmer Jeremy, and then I will talk about some nutrition, and then we will go into the farm tour. So a little about me. I went to Michigan State, like I said, and then Grand Valley for my master's in clinical dietetics. And then I also wanted to show off my little puppies, Rosie in the middle, and then Frankie on the side, because they are just absolutely so cute. And now I am going to pass it over to Jeremy, and he is going to talk a little bit more about sustainability and all things behind the scenes with farming. Jeremy?
Good morning, everyone. And Lauren, thank you for the introduction. As Lauren said, my name is Jeremy Worth, and I am the Industry Relations Manager here at the United Dairy Industry of Michigan. I come to the team just over a couple of years ago now. And prior to my career here at the United Dairy Industry of Michigan, I was a dairy farmer for just over 20 years. So I have a lot of experience in the dairy farming world. And in fact, my brother and my father still carry on our family's tradition as dairy farmers in northeastern Michigan. Here on the right, you'll see a picture of my family. My wife and I, Lisa, have a blended family with 4 daughters. And we live in northeast Michigan, and we also have a small hobby farm ourselves. And our children are all active in 4-H. My kids' names, starting from the left, is Callie, then Cambry, of course, my wife Lisa, myself, and then our other 2 daughters, Kiera and Amara. So that's who I am. Who are we as the United Dairy Industry of Michigan? If you look here on the slide, you will see a map of the United States. And what this map shows is the segments of the state and regional checkoff organizations throughout the United States. If you look in the great state of Michigan there, it's Milk Means More. That's us as the United Dairy Industry of Michigan. We are all state and regional promotional arms across the country of the United States, working on behalf of Michigan dairy farm families. And as Lauren explained, we are the PR arm for dairy farmers, not only in Michigan, but across the country. We specifically are for Michigan, as we're telling Michigan dairy farmer stories to consumers and those in and around our state. We are also affiliated with the National Dairy Council, and National Dairy Council has been in existence for over 100 years, providing science-based nutrition education to students in schools all over the state, not only in Michigan, but across the United States. So I'm going to start off today with some Michigan dairy industry facts. And as I go through my slides, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And I'd like to get through my whole entire presentation. At the end of our presentation today, we can answer any questions you may have. So, Michigan, we are a state that ranks quite well nationally for our milk production. We currently rank 6th nationally for milk production per state. That's 1.4 billion gallons of milk per year. And a great thing that I like to share about Michigan is we currently rank #1 in milk production per cow. And the reason why I want to, our Michigan dairy farm families do an exceptional job of animal care, caring for their cows, caring for their land, and happy and healthy cows produce a lot of milk. And it goes to show here that our state is #1 in the nation at doing that. Michigan is composed of just under 1,000 dairy farms, and we have just over 445,000 cows. So our average herd size in Michigan is just over 400 cows. And I want you to realize how much the dairy industry actually contributes to our Michigan economy, with over 40,000 jobs and revenues generating over $15.7 billion annually. So now that we've talked about a little bit of facts about the industry, I'm going to switch over and talk to you about dairy cow housing. And what you're going to see as Farmer Ashley takes us through a dairy farm tour. I want you to understand that you're going to see cows in barns. Why would cows be in barns? And it is, Michigan has a very unique climate in a way that we get to experience the utmost benefit of experiencing all 4 seasons of winter, spring, summer, and fall. Now, that is a lot of variation of temperatures. And believe it or not, our cows, our dairy cows, honestly like temperatures cooler than 50 degrees. Well, in Michigan. We know we get hot summer days. We get extreme humidity in certain parts of the states, and buildings that are designed for cows, the barns that the cows are in, are designed to keep them optimally comfortable through the 4 seasons of the years, protecting them from the summer from any potential sunburn or any potential heat. Some farms have installed misters and even fans to keep the cows cool in the summertime. They also have curtain sidewalls on the barns so they can roll the curtains down in a rainy event or cold winter days. You know, I want you to look at the cow here in this picture, and you see how she's laying in that bedding of sand. Sand is a premium bedding source for cows. It's very comfortable. It's very squishy, like you can kind of get up and down, in and out of it. Just like when you go to the beach, your body conforms to the sand. It's no different for our cows. When they're laying in the beaches of their sand bedded free stalls, their body can conform to that sand bed. Cows are big, they're 1,500 pounds. And so when their knees and their hips and their bodies conform to that sand, it's very comfortable for them. Also, I want to mention that sand is a non-organic material. And what's that important for? Organic material can harbor and grow bacteria. If you look at the cow, her udder, which is her mammary system, lays directly on that sand bed. Without the ability for bacteria to be harbored in that sand, it's a healthy surface for that cow's udder to be laid on, protecting it from any bacterial pathogens that can enter her mammary system. So as I explained to you, cow comfort is very important. And here's some cute slides of a Michigan dairy farm family where their kids are out in the barn with the calves. And you can see here that it's a beautiful looking environment. It's comfortable not only for the cows, but for the family as well. So cow comfort is number one priority on our dairy farms. You know, on our dairy farms, I want to highlight and mention that farmers truly embrace technology. You're going to see that today as Farmer Ashley gives us our tour. And that's Farmer Ashley there on the left, actually at one of her robotic milkers. And she's getting data that she can get on milk production of that cow health, the temperature of the cow, how many steps that cow takes in a day. The information is just unbelievable what these computers and the technology that the farmers use have for information on their cows. In the center there's a video camera that is placed on the farm, and farmers have the ability through their smartphone devices to look at these video surveillances on the farm, whether they're detecting movements of cattle, how many times cattle are visiting the feed bunk, or even the potential of the maternity pen and a cow having its calf. They can dial in on this information and look through these cameras to see this at the convenience of their personal device. On the far right is that is the cab of a harvest machine. It's called a forage harvester. That farmer's pulling up his field data through his phone. Not only does he capture the yield data of the harvesting of the crop, but he's also input the data of the nutrients applied to the field, the harvest date, the planting date, the growth records of annual rainfall, and nutrient management of that farm piece of property. So as I said, the nutrient data, farmers apply manure to their land. Manure is an organic fertilizer, and it is great for the growth of farmers' crops. And so farmers do also track the information and the nutrients associated with the manure when they're growing their crops. So we know that farmers use technology. What other resources do they use on maintaining health and records on their farm? Farmers work very closely with their nutritionist and their veterinarians. This is their team on the farm to ensure that they are putting cows' health and cow comfort as a top priority on their dairy farm. Here's a picture of dairy farm family working with their veterinarian, looking over the cattle as they talk about the protocols that they put in place, whether it be vaccination, treatment plans for illness. It is important to work closely with the veterinarian, and any use of antibiotics on farm is only prescribed when necessary and has to be prescribed by the veterinarian. Dairy nutritionists are another close partner that Michigan dairy farms work with. Farmer Ashley, I believe, will talk to you today about how he works with her nutritionist to customize diets for the cows, for their health and performance as they go through their lactating cycles on the farm. One thing that's really interesting that I want to make note of is cows upcycle components of feed that we can't, as humans with one stomach, digest, or for that matter, other mammals. So cows are an upcycler of byproducts. In fact, there are some byproducts such as soybean meal, beet pulp, soy hulls, wheat hulls, brewers grains. You know, how many of you in the classroom have enjoyed a beer? Well, guess what? The brewers waste or the brewers hulls, belts, different products are byproducts from that process of making beer. And a lot of dairy farmers feed those byproducts. Kind of an interesting thing. And cows are amazing at upcycling. They can use that as an ingredient in their ration. So I explained to you a cow's diet, and here's a picture of a farmer holding the diet in front of the cows there. What a cow's diet it consists of is several different components. Here I have listed them out. Cows have a 4-part stomach, and in the ration, the byproducts that are used are listed here as well on the screen. It is interesting. I want you to know that 80% of a cow's diet is inedible to humans. In the cow's diet, you'll hear this term talked about today, probably by Farmer Ashley. It's called a TMR. TMR stands for total mixed ration, or we can call it a cow casserole because that's very much what it simulates. So moving on to milk safety and processing. Now we're going to talk about milk being produced on the farm and the route that it takes to get processed and into the hands of consumers and you. So milking cows on farms. Here is a picture of a rotary parlor where cows are milked. They can be milked at least twice, if not some of them are even milked 3 times a day, depending on the farm. Each farm has a protocol that put in place to milk the cows. And it is a standard operating procedure that is followed carefully by every employee on the farm. That is to ensure that they are milked the same time, the same way every day. And milking, believe it or not, only takes about 5 to 10 minutes per milking on the cow. The milking procedure is a very comfortable procedure, and cows enjoy getting milked. In fact, I like to kind of relate it to cows release their milk or let down their milk, almost like that function of a human bladder, like it is a relief. So I know that seems kind of an odd comparison, but I want you to understand that the milking process for cows is actually very natural and very comfortable to those cows. So cows get milked in several different ways or on several different ways in different facilities. The process is the same on how the cows get milked. It's just the mechanism that is the difference in the mechanism of the milking of the cow. On the far left is pictures of robotic milkers. And this is an automated arm system where the robot milks the cow. Farmer Ashley has robots on her farm, and we'll get to see this in live action today. With the robotic milker, it obviously preps the cow, cleans the teats, applies the milker, and then when the cow is done, the robot takes the milker off the cow. Other types of parlors or rotary parlors, it's like a big merry-go-round that cows ride around and get milked on. And then in the lower right is an example of a herringbone parlor. Both of those parlors are managed by human labor, and they milk the cows. On these farms, the employees are a key part of the success of the operation, whether it be family members or local help or community help. Farmers are key on having key employees to do the milking process. Once the milk is collected, I want you to understand that there is a very safe process that takes place before that gets to processing plant, where it is bottled, made into cheese or yogurt, and then eventually on the shelves of stores and in the hands of consumers. So to ensure milk safety, milk is never touched by human hands. Once that milking unit is applied to that cow, the milk flows through hoses and stainless lines into a bulk storage tank. If you look up in the 2 left slides, those are both pictures of storage tanks on the farms where milk is cooled at cooled to refrigerated temperatures and stored in that milk. Typically, milk is picked up every day by milk haulers on farms. And here in this slide, you can see that the milk haulers are picking up the milk at the farm. In the upper right hand, the gentleman is actually taking documentation of milk temperature, the time of pickup, the weight of the milk, and he's also pulling samples. If you look up in the left upper slide, that is the milk hauler pulling a sample of that milk, collecting it in a vial. I want you to understand that samples are taken several processes through the milk hauling process of getting it to the plant. Milk is sampled at the farm. It's also sampled when it's on the truck and before it comes off the truck. Every time these samples are collected, the milk is recorded and tested for antibiotics. I want you to also understand that all milk, conventional milk, organic milk, all milk is tested and is free of any antibiotics. Also, I want you to understand that not only the farms, but the milk haulers are all inspected by USDA inspection. That's the United States Department of Agriculture. In Michigan, farmers are also inspected by the Michigan Department of Agriculture. These inspections are unannounced, and farmers and milk haulers are subject to these inspections at any time, and they have to pass in order to be classified as a grade A dairy farm or a grade A milk hauler. So then once the milk leaves the farm, it goes to a processing plant. As I said before, milk is tested before it is unloaded at the processing plant to ensure that it is free of any antibiotics. Next, at the processing plant, I want you to understand the three-step process that all milk goes through. Pasteurization is the process of heating the milk, and up to 100 and I think there's a different process of pasteurization, but I believe it's to a temperature for a short period of time and then cooled. That process is a standard process where the milk goes through pasteurization and it kills off any foreign bacteria, ensuring that the milk is safe for all consumption. Even though the farm process is very clean and how it collects milk, pasteurization is a standard that is extra protocol that is taken to place to ensure that milk is free of any harmful or potential pathogens that could affect humans. Standardization is the process of making sure that a bottle of skim milk or a container of skim milk is the same from every store, whether it be Walmart, Meijer, Kroger, the corner gas station, whether it's skim milk, whole milk, 2%. 2% is 2% in each container. Homogenization is the process of taking the milk and fragmenting the particles so that they are all of the same consistency inside. Milk will naturally separate. The skim and the fat will if it's stored without agitation. So homogenization is the process of making that milk so that it is all one consistency. Of course, bottled products are randomly tested for purities so that they can all be ensured that they are all the same standard. Milk, as I said before, any milk that is tested for antibiotics that would be positive is discarded and removed from the food supply. How do you know where your milk comes from? Well, here is a code that you can check for. Milk from Michigan is local, and if you want to find out if you are buying local Michigan produced milk, check for the code on the can or the jug. There is a 5-digit code, and the first 2 numbers of the code, 26, is Michigan's number. So if you see that code, you can be assured that you are drinking Michigan milk. Remember, code number is 26. I give you a lot on where the milk comes from, how it gets processed, and then ultimately how it gets to the store. And I want you to understand that that is a very quick process, and it can happen in about 48 hours. I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk to you about stewardship on environmental stewardship and sustainability on Michigan dairy farms. Michigan dairy farms are owned and operated by dairy farm families. In fact, 97% of Michigan's dairy farms are family owned and operated. With that, our dairy farmers and our dairy farm families really care about the environment and protecting their environment, not only for their families as they hand it down from generation to generation, but for their community and preserving that land for not only for their use to grow the crops for their families, but the involvement of taking care of the land, the creeks, the streams, the forests within their properties for the benefit of the community and the wildlife as well. So farmers do a lot to be environmentally stewards. And one of the things that I like to mention is how they use the manure and manage manure on their farms to grow their crops. Manure comes from cows, and on the farms, the farmers like to use the manure to grow their crops. Manure not only contains some of the main nutrients that it takes to grow a crop of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but also a lot of the micronutrients that can't be found in commercial fertilizers. Farmers will use the manure and land apply it to their farm fields, work it into the dirt, and then plant their crops. The crops love and take up these nutrients and allow the crops to just flourish. So farmers use the manure to grow the crops, and the crops uptake the nutrients. Therefore, it's being used to grow the crop and is not leaching into the groundwater. Farmers also do use buffer strips, cover crops, and do specific tillage practices to conserve fuel and to help retain nutrients in the soil. Recycling water is an important thing to understand. Michigan dairy farms, on the average, are recycling water 3 to 5 times before it is ultimately used to irrigate the crops with the manure. On farms, farmers recycle their water to help in the process of cooling their milk. Then they'll reclaim that water before it goes down the drain. They'll take that water and they will collect it in a storage tank. They can then use that water to wash the parlor down, and then to wash. Eventually, it'll get recollected after that, recaptured to wash the barn down, and then from there it could go to the manure lagoon and out onto the fields and irrigated with the manure for the crops. You know, another really interesting fact about water is I explained to you that the farmers can use the water to help aid in cooling the milk. And what it is it's kind of a device on the farm that's kind of like a plate cooler, or it is a plate cooler. It's kind of like a radiator. Radiator in your car, it helps cool the engine as the engine creates heat. So as you're going down the road, the cool air is flowing through that radiator, cooling the coolant or the freon that's going through your radiator core. So how does this plate cooler work? Basically, it is a system like a radiator where there's 2 sides to this stainless steel box. And in this stainless steel box, milk is flowing through on one side and water is flowing through on the other. And they never ever connect because there is stainless steel plates in between them. But the water is going through at 35 to 40 degrees, depending on well temperature water. The milk is coming through at 100 degrees. And the heat from the milk is transferring to the water, and the coolness from the water is transferring to the milk. Farmers can cool their milk by 35 to 40 degrees before it enters their bulk tank, where it is finished being cooled by refrigeration units. That is a huge benefit of using plate coolers on farms. And then that water can be recycled from there. Now, here's something interesting. That water that's warmed up, being recycled, is actually great for feeding cows. As I told you, cows don't typically prefer the warm weather. But you've got to understand that cow's body is also maintaining a body temperature of 101 degrees. That cow's body has to take energy to warm the water up that it consumes in a day from 50, 60 degrees on up to that 101 body temperature. Did you know that cows drink a bathtub full of water a day? That is a lot of water that cow has to warm up in her belly. Well, guess what? That plate cooler process not only helps take the warmth temperature out of the milk, it actually helps warm that water that cow has to convert into hydration for her body. So what all is our industry and our farms doing outside of plate coolers and outside of manure management on their farms? And the dairy industry has made a great pledge to be carbon neutral or better by the year 2050. And so here on this slide, I show a lot of different dynamics of what farms are doing. You know, I did mention some of the no-till, low-till, and cover crop practices that farms do to hold nutrients in their soil and keep them nutrients from leaching. Farmers are pioneers in a lot of these practices, especially our Michigan dairy farmers. From that, farmers are doing experiments working with universities on using feed additives to optimize nutrient uptake in dairy rations. You know, one thing that I like to share that is very simple is almost every one of our Michigan dairy farms use LED lighting. And you say, well, what's the importance of that? LED lighting uses a fraction of the power as conventional lighting. There's more than just a couple light bulbs on the average dairy farm. So it's a great story, the energy conservation that goes on in a dairy farm, just from the fact of switching to LED lighting on their farms. You know, there's a lot also around manure management on farms, and our farms treat the manure as a very, very valuable resource. It saves on commercial fertilizers that are bought to grow crops on the farm. And not only do the farmers value their manure, but they value the land that they're putting the manure on. And the manure is a great tool in growing and producing crops on that farm that the dairy farm in turn feeds back to its cows. So I went over a lot of information there, and I want to be respectable of time and respectable of Lauren's presentation too, but I am willing to take questions, and if you would like, you could put them in the chat, and if they don't pop up here right away, I'm also happy to take them at the end of the presentation and answer those as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was awesome. That was a great background about basically all aspects of farming and how it all works. We do have a couple questions that came in through the Q&A box. We did cover this first one just slightly, but could you reemphasize it a little bit? So how does Michigan get more milk per cow than other states?
That is a great question. And so, I mean, what I like to go to is I like to say our Michigan dairy farmers are very progressive. And I know that's not an acceptable answer, but it really is the truth. And so how are our dairy farmers progressive? Well, some of it is through the research and the studies that they've done with universities on caring for cows and feeding cattle. Actually, we have a great university, land-grant university in Michigan here that has an extension group. It's called the Michigan State University of Extension. And there is a lot of continuing education that dairy farmers go through as they work with MSU extension agents. Also, our farmers in Michigan a lot of them are generational farmers and truly care about their land and their cattle. And they are eager to adopt practices that create a better environment for their cows and ultimately lead to a better environment, a healthier animal, leads to a more productive animal. And one thing that we have in Michigan is actually a phenomenal climate. If you go very far south, you get extreme heat conditions. Extreme heat is not ideal for cattle. Michigan actually offers up a very ideal climate. Cows in Michigan tend to do great as far as feeling good and ultimately producing a lot of milk. And those key factors are probably the main points that go into the success of the production in Michigan. But I do definitely want to highlight, we have in Michigan some very, very, very progressive and prominent dairy farmers, and we are very proud to work for them here at UDIM.
Awesome, that is so true. So another question we got in was, how does someone become a dairy nutritionist? And do they need to become a vet first?
That's a great question. And So there is, like in human nutrition, there is not requirements like that for dairy cattle nutrition. Some nutritionists may have a veterinarian background, but it is not required to have any background in veterinarian science to become a dairy nutritionist. A lot of the dairy nutritionists come from an animal science background, but no particular degree is required for a dairy nutritionist.
Okay, awesome. I think we have one more question. Okay, how many farms in Michigan are using biodigesters, and are they very expensive?
That's a great question. In Michigan, I am aware of 3 farms that are using biodigesters. I have heard recently that several more farms are looking at this to use on their farms, or even community digesters where multiple farms would partner in the building of a digester. So I think this is something that is new technology, and we will see potentially some more of these in Michigan. But currently, right now, I believe there's 3 of them that I am aware of.
That's awesome. Something kind of new building on, and they're expensive to get, so it's kind of hard. So now we are going to move on to the more nutrition aspects. We don't have any more questions right now, but if you guys think of any, just pop them in the Q&A and we can always get back to them later. Farmer Jeremy will be with us and we'll be on the farm soon, so Ashley can answer some questions as well. Okay, so I'm going to focus more on the dairy nutrition, as you guys are all in school for this, so you guys do already have a good knowledge of nutrition in general. So as I said earlier, my name is Lauren Klein. I'm the Nutrition Outreach Specialist here at UDIM. So I was just going to start with my plate. You guys all know what this is. It used to be the pyramid. But you see that you're supposed to have your protein, your veggies, your fruits and grains, and then we have our cup of dairy, and that makes your recommended meal. So, dairy recommendations. How much do you guys think you're supposed to have? It's so you start having dairy, drink liquid milk when you're 1. You can have some dairy products a little bit before that, but 1-year-old is the dairy really baseline. And then once you're 9, you're supposed to be having 3 cups of dairy a day, which kind of seems like a lot, but once you look at, maybe you have a latte in the morning, that could be 1.5 cups right there, depending what size you get. You know, you have cheese, you have your different snacks throughout the day. It pretty much adds up, but having 3 cups can really help you get your nutrition in. So why dairy? Why not something else? Because it does have a lot of the nutrients that you guys need. So one of the nutrients of concern, calcium, vitamin D, and potassium, those are in milk. In milk also, so fiber is also a nutrient of concern. Milk doesn't really have that, but it can be paired with something with fiber. But milk does have a good amount of calcium, vitamin D, and potassium. It's also wholesome. It's real. You guys just seen how it's produced. You'll see in real the cow is producing it soon. And it's nourishing, refreshing, and hydrating. And this information also goes along with the DGAs that are going until 2025. As you guys know, they are redone every few years, and these are current. So milk has 13 of the essential nutrients. So as you can see on the bottom right, a whole heck of a lot of them, a lot of goodness in there. And it's essential because you have to consume them, and your body doesn't just make it yourself. It helps build and maintain your strong bones and teeth. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before. Drink your milk for your bones. It also has the fat in it. And it has the vitamin B, the fat soluble vitamins. So having those together makes sure that you are actually absorbing them and getting your vitamins that it has. So also helps with your immune system, blood pressure, and it actually has a good amount of electrolyte, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But basically, it's a little bit surprising usually of the amount of electrolytes that it has. So next, why would you pick dairy? It's because it's pretty easy to consume compared to the other sources that you would have to eat to get the nutrition from. So if you wanted to get the amount of calcium that's in 1 glass of milk, you'd have to have 10 cups of spinach, which is a whole lot of spinach. That right there would hurt your stomach. And you're supposed to have 3 cups of milk. So that's 30 cups of spinach. That's craziness. So the fact is that yes, you can get this nutrition from milk, and you can also get it from other sources. You just have to be more cognizant of how much you're eating and what you're pairing those foods with. So milk is easily absorbed. Some of these other ones you have to be a little bit more careful with, and with your portion sizes. So you can choose which one. And then this is more towards the females in the group. It is known that women are more likely to develop osteoporosis. And one way to combat that is having enough calcium and vitamin D as you're growing up and you're developing bones to ensure that they are developed and they're not frail when you get older. It's about age 70 that usually people, if they're gonna get it, start to develop it. And it's usually you guys right now, your ages, that it's important to be getting this nutrition so that you're set for later in life and you don't develop these different sarcopenia and different osteoporosis issues. So moving a little bit over to the side is lactose intolerance. This is something that is happening it's more prominent now. A lot of people like to avoid dairy. They like to say it kind of gives them tummy issues. Understandable. The thing is with this, that if you do have an actual lactose intolerance, which it's not an allergy, and there's also a test to see if you do actually have lactose intolerance. So instead of just cutting out the dairy, you should probably go get that checked so that you're not missing out on all the nutrients just because you think it might be an issue. So you can still have dairy though if you are lactose intolerant. There's lactose-free milk, which they sell just at Meijer. I seen it the other day. Fairlife is a brand that's naturally lactose-free. Greek yogurt, it has Greek yogurt and kefir. It has the probiotics, it has the added bacteria that break down the lactose enzymes so that it's not as hard on your stomach. It's not as hard on your lactose. And then hard cheeses, same thing goes. And then adding it into your diet slowly, because if you skip out on mac and cheese for a full year and then you try and have a big old bowl one day, you're gonna have a tummy ache. And that pretty much goes with anything. If you don't have chocolate for a year and then you have 3 king-size chocolate bars, you're gonna have a tummy ache. So yeah, if you have chosen to reduce it a little bit, try not to jump into it too quickly. So a little shift again. You guys probably all know that milk is pretty prominent in school. It's one of the drink options, and it's one of the offer versus choice selections. So kids fall short on their nutrients very often because this is a time of growth for them and they kind of need a lot, and it can be hard to get kids to sit down and actually eat and drink their full meals. So having this milk is a good option for them. They don't have to choose it, but it's there during the schools. And it helps make up those 3 serving, and it helps close those gaps. It helps strengthen their bones. And we all know those classic little milk cartons. They're so good with the little chocolate milks, and you open it to the side, and it's a part of my plate, and that's why it continues to be on school's option list. So chocolate milk. Obviously it is chocolate milk. So it does still have all the nutrition that regular old white milk has, in addition to the chocolate. But something a little bit lesser known is that it actually has half the sugar as a sports drink that you probably are thinking of. And then also it only has 1.5 teaspoons per 8 ounces, which it's really not that much. And then it also provides the 3-to-1 carb to protein ratio to refuel. So obviously everyone's different. We're all going to need different amounts. Maybe you need to have a chocolate milk and a banana, but this chocolate milk will help you refuel too, rather than just having your sports drink. So that's why chocolate milk is kind of a big thing for refueling with, because it provides the kids good nutrition to kind of fill their bones, refuel them, and then rest up for their next activity. So sport. So you've probably seen, we do work with some of the different sports teams here in Michigan. So Lions, Pistons, and we work with them because they are people that are known in their group to be avid chocolate milk drinkers already. We're not just, it's not product placement. They're already drinking this chocolate milk. And so we want to work with them. So as I said before, it does have the ideal carb to protein ratio. It helps rebuild, it helps refuel. It has electrolytes just like your sports drink would. So when you usually go for, you know, maybe you're a long distance runner, maybe you just ran a half marathon, you obviously know you need these different nutrition steps along the way and afterwards to recover. You might be thinking you need a sports drink after. Well, one of those things is chocolate milk can kind of replace that because it has the protein and carbs in it, but also it has the same electrolytes as that sports drink would. So it rehydrates as well. And along with what I said earlier, it helps promote strong bones. So if you are an athlete, having strong bones it's pretty necessary. You want to be your best. So works with that. And I like to take note on this is it says it's supported by 20+ studies. And this isn't something that the dairy industry per se is funding. We are funding it, but is going through the process. So it is being researched, it's having peer reviewed, people can call it out. So only true information is being presented and being promoted. We aren't able to do any fake studies. It's monetarily promoted or funded by dairy because who else is going to do that? No one else needs to have information about dairy. We need the information to show you guys. So just so that you know, it is peer reviewed. It's gone through all the steps. So it is trustworthy. So food insecurity. I like this really personally. I personally work with a bunch of food banks on student campuses. And seeing the milk being one of the top things that a lot of people, it just goes through their coolers way too quickly. They never can keep it in stock. And that's because it's in 94% of households. That is the top drink beyond water, obviously, that is in households. And food insecurity is, if it doesn't affect you, it probably affects someone that you know, and maybe they're hiding it. You never know who it's affecting. So it is the lack of consistent access and enough food for healthy and active lifestyles. And you guys probably know there's different levels. So there's high food insecurity, very low, there's low. That all depends on if you're having your meals, worried about meals. But 1 in 6 kids live with food insecurity, which is kind of a lot. Think of just one classroom having, say, 25 kids, about 20 of them ish, or would be having food insecurity. So milk, like I said earlier, is one of the most requested. So we try to keep those in there and keep them stocked. And if you see this photo right here, I do want to say that this is a little bit old. Basically, all of these numbers are doubled, but milk continues to be about half the price per glass of these other beverages on the market. So it is a good option by having all the nutrients and a low price, which is great. So now I wanted to look at some of the other drink options on the market. So you guys know there's so many out there now. There's some not even on this list. The other day I saw like potato milk. That is wild. I'm concerned. But there are so many, and I just wanted to point out that so real milk, lactose-free milk, and then some of the soy and pea protein-based ones, they have the most protein. Compared to these other drinks, there's very minimal protein. There's a ton of ingredients. And one thing with those is you need to shake it because all of the ingredients are added. So it's enriched. They're probably on the bottom. They're probably not dispersed well. So if you're just pouring your glass of almond milk, it's like you're not even getting that 1 gram of protein. It could be somewhere else in there. It could be at the bottom. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. And also, if you do choose to not have real dairy milk, just know that you do have the option for lactose-free milk. It is about the same price, right in Meijer, right in there. Or if you are opting for something else, the best choice is to have something like soy or a protein fortified one, so that you are getting your protein in with it and it is giving you a little bit. It doesn't have as many nutrients, but it has the protein. And I just wanted to finish off by saying we do have a ton of different materials that I work. It takes a lot of effort to make all of these. It's basically handouts. You guys, whatever, I know you guys are going to school still. If you want to give them out to different places that you're visiting during your internship, or it's just good to know for when you're ready to wherever you go in your career, if you're having a private practice, if you're working in a hospital, you guys can reach out to us and we will send you like a bulk amount of these for free. And you can help teach your clients or patients, whoever, some different information. It's easy to give out. You don't have to put the effort in. But yeah, you can find those at milkmeansmore.org. So now we will get on with the actual farm tour part. And here is my coworker, Amy, to take us along.
Hi, everyone. I think we have just a few minutes. We're going to take a real short break and make sure Farmer Ashley is ready at the farm. And we'll get started right at 11 o'clock. So just give you just a few minutes. If you guys want to chat in your classroom, or it sounds like you're all together, which is great. So give us a few minutes and we'll make sure Ashley is all ready. So thank you.
Ashley, are you available to turn on your microphone and camera for a quick check?
Yep, I'm here.
Awesome. Perfect. Ashley looks like she's ready to roll.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out.
Okay. No worries. No worries. We have everybody connected with us. They can hear us, knowing that we're working in the background here to get started. So we'll start in about 5 minutes. Ashley, you look good to go there. We'll go ahead and mute you. If there's anything that you need to communicate with us, you can chat with us.
Okay, sounds good.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here this morning. I am Amy Vondrasek. I also work at United Dairy Industry in Michigan with Jeremy and Lauren here, and they did a great job. doing an overview of dairy farming and then also of dairy nutrition. And now we get to change gears and go right out onto the farm. And we are with Farmer Ashley. Ashley Messing Kennedy. I should probably say your full name here. And she's going to show us around her farm, which is in the thumb of Michigan. So hi, Ashley.
Hi, everybody.
We've had such beautiful weather this week. And of course, it's a nice chilly morning to be doing a farm tour.
At least it's not raining. So that's
good.
always good.
Very good. It looks like you're in the calf barn.
I am.
I've been very fortunate to be at your farm a couple times, so it's looking familiar.
Mhm.
But if you want to kick us off, introduce yourself and talk about your farm and a little bit of history there, that would be great.
Yeah. So like Amy said, my name is Ashley Kennedy, and my husband Eric and I are third generation farmers. We're just outside of Bad Axe. If anybody maybe isn't familiar with the area, but you've heard of Cheeseburger and Caseville, I'm in the same county as that. So we're surrounded by the lake 3 directions in 30 minutes or less. And we have 2 daughters, Callie and Adeline, and we milk 240 cows. I grew up on this farm. This is the farm that my grandparents bought in the 60s. And so, yeah, we're here. We love what we do. And I'm really excited to share it with you.
And we're excited to see it. So it sounds like you're third generation, been there for a little while.
A little bit, yeah.
Yep.
Some days it feels like forever.
Before we jump into the calves and stuff, how many acres do you have there on your farm?
So we farm about 700 acres. It covers everything from, we grow a lot of traditional dry edible beans. We grow corn and hay for the cows. We grow wheat. And then my brother and my dad have like a small heirloom dry bean business. So a lot of us think about navy beans, pinto beans, kidney beans, Great Northern beans. These are all like varieties that have kind of gone by the wayside. And so they're really cool. They're really unique. And when we do the cropping, we work with my dad and my mom still, and my brother and his wife. And then we also help my parents with the birth to finish beef operation. So we keep all of the males born here on the farm and we raise them, and then they go to beef.
Oh, that's great. Actually, that was one of our questions in the pre-survey was, what is the difference between a beef cow and a dairy cow?
Oh, great question. So a beef cow is, they're considered a steer or a bull. A steer is a castrated male. Mostly you do that for safety reasons, because bulls can be really aggressive and dangerous. If you've ever watched, the bull riding competitions, like they can be mean. So for safety, we castrate them all. And then basically they're the males that are born on the farm. A dairy cow are the females born on the farm. There's a couple different names depending on how old they are, but in the simplest form, dairy cows are females because they lactate. And then dairy beef are males because they can't lactate and they're, great for beef.
Mm-hmm. It's always a funny question from little kids. They're so surprised to learn that all the dairy cows are females that are being milked and stuff. So
Yes.
fun,
yes, absolutely.
not always a fun thing to explain, but
yep.
But now that we're in like you said, we're in the calf barn. So let's take a look at the calves, and you can tell us all about your barn and all the different ways you use technology with your calves. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we have what's called group housing, whereas we have a small group of calves all housed together. We have 15 to 18 calves per pen, no more than 18, because that helps keep the calves healthy and there's enough time for them to eat out of the automated feeder. So each pen, you can see this yellow stuff that they're laying on, that's straw. That's actually a byproduct of growing wheat. So recycling right there, right off the bat. We also use some sawdust, which is also a byproduct of the furniture industry and the lumber industry. So, you know, right there in the bedding, we've got recycling. Each pen has always has access to fresh, clean water. Right there, each pen has a waterer. And then if you look down here in this green tub, let me get this turned so then you can see fresh grain. This is put in a pelletized form. The whole idea is that then each calf and each bite, they're getting exactly the nutrient and the calorie intake that they need. So our calves are fed milk through an automated feeding system. So you'll see there that stall, the calf will walk into that stall. There's a nipple there. And then the feeder will actually mix each one according to what each calf needs. And it's kind of like a big blender. Everything is the perfect temperature. It's the perfect concentration every time that a calf goes in there. I can't go in there because I lose my internet service, but I know we have some B-roll of that maybe
Yep, we are
can
watching
share.
that. Yep, we are
Yep,
watching that.
There
right
we
now.
go.
Yep.
Perfect.
How does
Perfect. So
the
yeah.
automated feeder know which cow it is and what to mix up for them?
So each calf has this button, yellow tag, circle tag. We call it a button tag. Hi, baby. Those are actually a radio frequency ID tag. It identifies each calf. Each one has a unique number just for each calf. And so that's how this feeder identifies them. Hi, honey. You are very happy. There we go. There's that nice yellow circle there in its ear. So that's how they identify each calf, I guess. So yeah, if you look up, oops, going the wrong way. Hang on, I swear I'm a millennial, but I'm not always great with technology. So you see these tubes here, they actually are connected to fans here at the end of the barn that I can't kind of see it there. And they blow air through the barn. This was specifically engineered for our barn. And so the idea is that then those holes blow air down into the pen to keep fresh, clean air on the calves. We also have some exhaust fans at the end of the barn, so they pull dirty, I don't know about dirty, but just less fresh air out of the end of the barn. You can see, because today's kind of cool, we have their curtains, but they're completely light permeable, so calves always still get light. We have these same curtains on the cow barns. All of our barns have these curtains, and the idea is that even though we're protecting them from the elements, they're still, you know, getting fresh air from outside. They're still getting sunlight through the curtains. So we're trying to give them all the things that they need, just in a little bit more of a consistent environment to keep them healthier and to try to keep them from getting sick, because sick calves are not fun.
And they do get vaccinations, right? How soon do they get those?
Correct. So we give 2 vaccinations at birth. We give an immune booster because calves are born with the immune system of a preemie baby. Cows' placentas are really intense, and so the immune system doesn't get passed to the calf even at full term. So they get an immune booster that helps protect them from some bacteria and viruses, and then they also get a pneumonia vaccine also at the time of their birth. It's an intranasal, so we just squirt it up their nose and that does its thing. And then we always work hard to give them high quality, the highest quality colostrum as soon as possible.
Okay. They're so cute there.
Yeah, they're all very chill. They're just resting.
Mhm. I know that's a hard part about not having all of our students at the farm, being able to be
Mhm.
right there with them. But I'm gonna have you move on over to another part of your farm. And
Yeah.
while you're doing that, where do those calves go? I know they move down the various group pens,
Mhm.
and then where do they
Yep.
go?
Once they get done with that barn, I'll turn you around again. They will actually go to this barn next, and they kind of follow through the barn. They go down this side all the way, and then they come back around. It's kind of like a big circle or a U here.
Mhm.
And then they will move to that pen, and they kind of just follow that barn through until they make it back into the milking herd.
Mhm.
So yeah, they just kind of have a straight line, and they just follow through it.
Kind of like school, when you're in elementary school, you go around all the different classrooms and
Yeah.
move there. So how do
Yes,
you,
absolutely.
how do you keep track of all of those animals on your farm?
That's a great question. Um, we you saw in their ears that they had number tags. The big ones, those are their identification tags. Those are really important. I can remember a lot of animals, but I can't necessarily memorize all of them. My hired girl, I have a new hired girl, and I'm like, oh, we need this cow and this cow, and they look like this and this. And she's like, just looks at me the one day and she said, how do you know this? Do you just have them memorized? And I was like, yeah, pretty much. But I can't do them all. So they all have number identification. And then we have 2 computer programs that help me remember these things. I track all of the information that I possibly can. And it helps remind me of things. So if a cow needs to go to our hoof trimmer, who basically is a cow pedicurist, dang it, I am really losing today. Okay. Then it pops up on a list for me so that I don't always have to try to keep track of those things. Or if, the vet needs to see a certain cow for a certain reason, it comes up on a list. So I don't always have to think super hard on a lot of these things. The computer and the technology is really important.
Mhm. Oh, I bet it just helps efficiencies a lot of different ways. Like you said, you don't have to necessarily remember everything, which is nice.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right, I got to switch my internet
Okay.
real quick.
Yeah, Jeremy was
Okay.
sharing with us this morning some of the different ways to milk the cows. You have the rotary parlors and the different type of parlors, and Ashley has robots. So it's very
Yep.
interesting to see. I know I was very impressed the
Okay.
first time I saw how this goes. So I'll let you.
Okay.
You've
All
got a
right.
couple here.
Yeah, we got a cow in here. She just got started. So you'll see these brushes. Those are, it first did what we call a dry brush. So all it's trying to do is get any dirt or anything dirty off of the teeth. So now it's called a wet brush. There's a peroxide and water solution that's on there. You can kind of see it dripping off the bottom of the brushes. And then it blows air to try to get as much of that off, because you don't want a whole bunch of that. Even though it's food grade, you don't want a whole bunch of that in the milk. And so it's going to pull back. And then you will see those red lights hitting the teats. That's the laser. So it looks and detects on where the light bounces back to see where the teats are at. And then it's going to attach each one. And so then once it has milk flow from all 4 of the teats, the brush here is going to sanitize, uses that same peroxide water solution. It should go here any minute now. There we go. So lots of sanitizing, lots of trying to keep things clean. And so while we are here, dang it. All right, we'll look up here. So one of the coolest things about having the robots is that we get to feed each cow customly. Up here are pellets. They look like the pellets that are in the calf barn, but they are actually pellets formulated exactly for milk cows. And depending on the cow's caloric needs, we obviously know the basic caloric needs of a cow, but then depending on how much milk she makes, where she is in her gestation, all of those types of things, it figures out exactly how many calories she needs. And then what it does is it allots that perfect amount to each cow. So we are feeding our cows like professional athletes, exactly for the calories that they need so that they can consume it all in a day. This is just our little screen here. It shows the cow number up here. So we have 142, and this probably is kind of hard to read. My screen, I have a new screen here and it's like extra shiny. And then this is her collar number. So instead of using those little circle tags like the calves use, we actually use a collar, and I'll show them to you once I get out in the barn so that you can see that collar it's like your Fitbit. It does any kind of fitness tracker. It tracks steps and activity, but then it also tracks what's called rumination. It has a tiny little microphone in there, and it counts how many minutes a day each cow is eating or chewing her cud. If you've ever seen a cow that looks like she's chewing bubble gum, then she's chewing her cud. And only cows that are, happy, content, healthy will do that. So it's a really important number. And then this is her weight in pounds. We do have a scale in the bottom. This is how many pounds of pellets she's allotted. Oh, there we go, a little bit better. She's allotted in this milking 6.61 pounds. This is how the first number is. She's been in here for 4 minutes and 36 seconds. The dash, and then 6 minutes and 40 seconds. That's the average time that she's in the robot. Total milk yield so far is almost 25 pounds. And then this is how long each quarter's been on. So the robot will actually pull off each quarter individually as it's done. It doesn't, like in a parlor, you have to kind of it's all of them or nothing, basically. They all have to come off. The neat thing about the robot is you can do so much as individual and individual quarters. Every time a cow walks into the robot, you get over 100 data points from milk temperature, which is related to her body temperature, milk quality. I have it set in the robot so that if any kind of milk quality is questionable, it goes right down the drain. It does not go into the milk tank. In addition to that, if for some reason I need to treat a cow with antibiotics, there is something called a withdrawal period, meaning that there are so many days that the milk can't go into the tank because she is shedding medicine. And I just have to put it into the computer and the robot automatically does that for me, which is amazing because the reality is that accidents do happen, and knock on wood, I have not had the robot have an error yet. If somebody doesn't get sorted out, it is human error, not robot error. But you can see that one quarter came off. And so as they all come off, then it's going to spray with a disinfecting teat spray to help keep that bacteria away and out of the teats until they can close up. And, try to keep them conditioned too, because, milking can, if you don't do it right and you don't moisturize it, could get kind of tough on those teats.
We did have a question come in. You were talking about the pellet. Is she
Yep.
eating while she's being milked?
Yeah, she is eating while she's being milked. I can't see it. It's hard to see it from up here. But when I come out, I'll make sure I go by and I show that so that you can see it. So yeah, that's a great question. I didn't specify that, so thank you. Yes, she is eating while she's being milked.
Mhm. And then we had another question about the robots themselves, and I think
Yeah.
you could probably just answer that by telling us why your farm chose to go to robots. If you're done, is there more in the process you wanted to show us?
No, I pretty much said everything. So yeah, I can move out. But the reason why we decided to go with robots versus other options is we're kind of at this weird size where we're small, but we're not super small, but we're also not big. We're kind of in that strange in between size, which meant that finding employees was a challenge. And when the thing that kind of broke the camel's back was I had to argue with an employee who was drinking at lunch, and he was telling me that he wasn't drinking at lunch, and I was just like, something needs to change. In addition to that, our shifts were kind of a weird size. They weren't short enough that you could have like high school and college kids come and milk, but they weren't quite long enough that you could give a bunch of people full-time work. And so that's a pretty big struggle. Whereas now, because even at our size, because we can tell people that we don't have to milk cows. Lots of people actually are interested to work here because, I mean, enjoyed milking cows, but it's tough on the body. And then to do it for, 8, 12 hours straight, that's tough on the body. So we're not doing that kind of monotonous labor. We are able to give 2 full-time people work, and we're able to pay them better because our labor is so much smaller. So we have basically 2 full-time people, and then we always have 1 part-time high school person or college person to just kind of fill in some afternoons and on weekends. So that is why we decided to go with robots. And
How many robots do you have? Oh, go ahead and switch over your connection there. It seems like I can't remember how many robots I saw last time I was there.
We have 4.
There's 4. Okay.
Yep. We have 4. Dang it.
We did lose your video. So I'll let you work on that. It is very interesting too to see those rotary parlors, because I've seen like 72 cows on a rotary parlor. It's just huge. And like the cows just know when they're done, it's time to walk right off. They're just creatures of habit. They just like to do the same thing.
Okay, persevered. Yes, no, rotaries I think are really neat to go see. I think they're fun, but I'm just like, that's not for me, which I think is the cool thing about the dairy industry is that there's so much variation and each farm is kind of unique, and we all get to, decide how we want to make it work. So this girl, number 11, is having a great time. So she's getting her allotment of grain. Hi, girl. So yeah, they are getting fed grain while they are milking. So then here we have a little bit more technology. These are called the Lily Luna brushes. I need to get some new bristles on there. But the cow hits them and then they spin, and they're basically, they're brushes. They clean their coats out really good in the spring when they lose their winter coat, but really it has no it has no value other than pure entertainment for them and enjoyment for them. So yeah, you can see in the video that was like perfect. That girl was enjoying them a lot.
Yep. Oh, that's funny. How often do they go into the robots to be milked?
So our herd averages about 3 times a day. That's the nice bonus about having robots too, is that they all kind of get to pick their schedule. They get to choose when they want to lay down, when they want to go eat, when they want to go to the robot. So you can see 2 robots here on this side, each half of our barn has 2 robots. We have, give or take, about 120 cows per side on the barn. It's a big open pen. They have lots of free stalls, and yeah, they get to pick their schedule. They get to choose, what their schedule is. We don't move them unless we're bedding the pens. So meaning we're throwing fresh bedding in the free stalls there. We use sand because sand is not easily crushed by cow feet, because that is a part of it, but also it stays warmer in the winter. It's kind of insulating, so it stays warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer. It feels cool to them. And it's an inorganic substance, meaning that as long as you keep any kind of manure or debris out of there, it does not grow bacteria, or it's a lot harder to grow bacteria on it. So that's another advantage, meaning that it keeps mastitis and illness and disease out. You'll see that we have fans up there. Every so many posts, we have these big giant fans. And in the summer, those go all the time. They were going this weekend, but now we're a little chilly, so they're off. And then you can again see those light permeable curtains. Same concept as that we're pulling in fresh air, and then they can still get that sunlight, but we're keeping them from getting really cold. It was raining yesterday. It was raining quite a bit yesterday. So most of the curtains are down because, we're keeping them out of that rain. I felt like I was going to say something else, but yeah, we can put those curtains up and down. Oh, they don't have 2 fans in here like in the calf barn, because cows actually make enough body heat that they will make a natural circle with the air. So there are little open eaves right here at the very top of the curtains. Here, it's kind of hard to see, but that pulls fresh air in, it goes down, and then the cow heat warms the air and it takes it up through that ridge in the top of the barn. So if you come out here on a really cold day, you will actually see steam rising out of this barn. And it's not uncommon, especially in a couple weeks where it's cool enough that you have the barn pretty much closed up, but the cows just make so much heat that then it's just fog and steam all over in here. So yeah, cows make a lot of body heat because they're big, hot animals. Their temperature runs at about 101 degrees. So they make a lot of body heat, and it naturally makes an airflow, a circular airflow through the barn.
Yeah, Jeremy talked quite a bit about the different barns and in just the importance of keeping the cows comfortable and happy and seeing them lying around. We still have about 20 minutes left for the class. Okay. So I do want to talk about their feed. If we could talk more about that. Jeremy mentioned that it was called TMR, but we want to see it in action. So if you could show us what you have here.
Yeah, absolutely. So a TMR, I also call it a cow casserole. So the idea behind the TMR, which I'm sure Jeremy told you, is to every time a cow takes a bite, get everything that she needs. So ours is a little different because we feed the pellets. That's the real majority of their energy is right there. But this is still super important because ours includes a lot of the fiber that they need every day. We also put our minerals and our vitamins in here because it doesn't taste that good in a pellet, in a pelletized form. So our ingredients are pretty simple. We have silage, we have haylage. So corn silage and haylage are the fresh cut plant. It's the entire plant, and then it's put up kind of wet, and then it's ensiled, meaning that it is fermented, just like you would think about fermenting pickles, fermenting alcohol, any of those types of things. It gets fermented. And so lots of fiber, but also there are some calories in here. You know, corn is a starch, so it does have some calories. The haylage is ideal for protein. Fiber and protein are really important in there. And then we have some canola meal, which is a byproduct of making canola oil, and that's used for protein also. And the last thing is basically we have some beet pulp. It's a byproduct of the sugar beet industry. It's basically had most of the sugar and the water pulled out of it, and it's a little, yeah, I can't really see it in here very well. But yeah, it's like in a little, they're in little shavings, I guess, is what they kind of, is what it basically looks like. So we mix it all together. And then the idea is that they have a nice bite. So this is kind of like their fruits and their veggies. And then the pellets are like their bread and their healthy fats and those sorts of things. So it all balances together and makes an ideal diet that has been deeply thought out from our cow registered dietitian is called a dairy nutritionist, a livestock nutritionist. And so that's Steve. He is not here today, although he's been doing it for, I don't know, over 20 years at least. He's been our nutritionist for decades. And yeah, he's fantastic at his job. He's really, we couldn't live without him. We always say that if Steve retires, then we might have to retire too, because we don't know what we do without him.
Yeah, I think we have a ration sheet. I think that's what it's called, a sheet of
Yep.
Steve's that he shared on previous tours, and just the breakdown
Yes.
of the feed. And, you know, 'cause
Yeah,
cows have different needs at different times, as was brought up.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yep. Like each of our pens, even from this side of the barn to that side of the barn, there are slightly different rations. You know, our cows, our vacation cows, our heifer, our young cows, they all have different rations based on what their need is at the time. You know, we take feed samples so that we can get these very detailed information on what is in it, so that we can get down to the micronutrient to make sure that we aren't overfeeding anything that could really complicate their health, and we're not underfeeding anything that could also really complicate their health. It's, you know, super scientific, it's super detailed, and yeah, but you know, we're in a way feeding a professional athlete, and so we want to, you know, make sure that they're very healthy, well taken care of. And feed is and having a good healthy diet is a really, really important part of that.
Mhm. Yeah, they're very lean. We have a video too of another piece of technology that you
Yeah.
use. I kind of saw it in the
Yes.
corner, but it wasn't moving. But we do have a
No,
video.
she's asleep right now. But yeah, that is Juno, and she is our feed pusher. So her job, she has one job, and every hour on the hour, other than the 2 hours where my husband is in here feeding cows every morning, she goes around and she pushes the feed up. That keeps it so that the cows don't have to reach way out to get their feed. They can get feed when they want it, so that, again, they're fed, they're healthy, they're not hungry. We want to make it as easy as possible to get their healthy, balanced diet. And so, yeah, that's what Juno does. She just goes around in a big circle along the feed bunk and just pushes that feed up to keep it right in front of them.
Yeah, different than having someone having to actually push that up every hour. And they can technology to help with that as well. Mhm.
Oh no, my gimbal is like going crazy. Anyway, maybe I can get her to go right. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Apparently she doesn't want to do anything either today. But yeah, she's one of the essential parts of our team. She's pretty simple, but yeah, she does a really important job. And when you're talking about sustainability and thinking about things like that, Juno is battery. She's battery powered, she's electric. And if she wasn't doing it, it would be a skidster, which is like a small specialized implement on the farm that runs on diesel. So we would be running a diesel vehicle through here several times a day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
So even just from that aspect, it doesn't sound like a lot, but over a whole year, that's quite a few gallons of fossil fuels that we're not using and we're not putting into the air. So there are lots of little things like that happen on farms that slowly add up over time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, a lot of different ways to be sustainable, and Jeremy touched on a lot of that too. Let's see. I want to see if any other questions that we had ahead of time. What do you do with your manure?
Great question. So manure is recycled. And so we spread it on fields as a fertilizer, as a natural, I swear to God, I might have to just, anyway, it's a natural fertilizer that we use on our crops. It helps us not only save money, but it also helps us feed our crops. It's really important. It's really natural. Farmers have been doing it for generations. And so it was kind of like a very early concept of recycling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think farmers have been, they've lived on their farms. So it's just so important to take care of that land around them and just being sustainable and responsible, because they live there, they're part of their community, and they want to make sure they take care of their community. And you've talked about different professionals that you work with. Mm-hmm. You talked about the veterinarian and a dairy nutritionist and your hoof trimmer. And of course, you employ people from your community. You've been able to pull some in. So just very involved. And then the whole supply chain, right from your milk truck driver, lots of people.
Yeah, no, our milk truck driver has been our milk truck driver as long as I can remember. And he was also my grandpa's milk truck driver when they switched to the company. And he was my parents' milk truck driver. So he's been our driver since 1963. So yeah, we are really involved in our community. We employ people from all across our community. I think between every little bit that we do business, we work with at least 20 different professionals, all of whom live in our local area, live in communities across our area. So yeah, dairy farms have a huge economic impact on our state and on our economy, our local economies.
Mm-hmm. We did have someone ask if we could see the lagoon, but I don't know if you're at the right end of the barn. It's not that we can get there. We only have a few minutes.
Oh yeah, no. And I think my husband would kill me if I did that. Because we are this afternoon going to actually start hauling manure. So it's extremely full. We're right there because we've had a bunch of rain. So yeah, I wish that I could show you guys manure spreading, but we don't have anything going on yet. Fingers crossed, hopefully they show up today because we're supposed to have a nice rest of the week so that we can get it done and get everything worked in the field right away. Because that's the other really important part about manure is, responsibly managing it. So you spread it on a field and you need to get it worked in right away so that it doesn't enter waterways or ditches or, anything like that. So it's not just as simple as using it as a fertilizer, a natural fertilizer. You got to be responsible with it.
One quick question for you, Ashley. What is your favorite dairy product?
Now, you guys ask me this every time, and I'm never prepared because I like them all. But I think I always say cheese. I just really could never live without cheese.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite. Although ice cream's right up there for me.
Yeah, I couldn't live without sour cream either. Oh, man, we go through a lot of sour cream.
Oh, we did. Somebody wants to know how the manure gets to the lagoon.
Great question. So we have these. I talked about a skid loader earlier. It's an implement that we use to clean out the barns. And so I'll switch you around. And so we have these alleys back here. You can already see there's a little bit of water and stuff in there. So that's where the cows are supposed to poop, ideally, and they usually do. And twice a day, we get a skid loader in here, and it has a little scraper, like a little rubber scraper that we use then to push it all out to that end of the barn, and then it goes to the left outside of the barn. Sorry about the jumping. And then it gets pushed up into the lagoon. So we have not figured out a way to do that on electric yet, but I am hopeful that maybe someday I'll have another cool robot to show you that will clean my poop up.
That would be fun to see. I just want to wrap up. Is there one thing you want these students to take away from this? What's one thing you want them to learn?
Yeah, I think that yes, farming is business. I won't lie, because I couldn't be here if we weren't financially sound. I'm not going to say we're super successful, but there have been times where I've been wondering where I'm going to get the money to buy groceries, but most of the time I'm not like that. We've been really lucky and privileged to be where we're at. However, we are cow people. Like, my cows are something that I love, and I take their care and their health and their longevity very seriously. I take the health and the safety and the quality of the milk that I make for you guys to drink really, really seriously, because my family's eating that at the grocery store too. I don't drink milk out of my tank because I don't have a pasteurizer in my house. So we buy it from the grocery store too. And if we didn't take good care of our cows, we wouldn't be financially successful. A well cared for, healthy cow is a financially productive cow. So those two things do go hand in hand. So I think that is the last thing I want to say that I want to leave you guys with. So thank you. It's been so much fun, even though my gimbal is being ridiculous. And
we'll look for that. So thank you so much, Ashley, taking the time out of your day to spend with us to, teach these students about dairy farming. None of them have been on a dairy farm, so maybe we'll still get a chance to get them out on one at some time. That would be great.
Yeah, and if you guys are ever at Cheeseburger, you can get in touch with me and I will give you a personal tour.
And they can follow you online, right? You're on social media?
Yeah, you can find me. My handle on pretty much everything is Messy Kennedy. So Kennedy, and I share a little bit of everything. So you'll get to see all the shenanigans that we're up to.
Oh, great. Well, thank you again, Ashley. And
Of course, thank you.
Yep, I'm going to bring back Lauren to wrap up because I know your class is done in about 5 minutes. So I'll let Lauren take it away.
Okay, hi guys. That was great getting to see Cassidy's farm. Anyways, so I know you guys have to skedaddle soon, but I just wanted to remind you guys that we have a post survey we're gonna ask you guys to fill out. It's in the chat right now. You don't have to do it now, you can do it a little bit later. It's only a couple questions, pretty easy, and it's kind of just helping us figure out how to make this better, how to keep improving. You guys know continuous improvement is a big thing in dietetics. So we want this to be the best it can be. And I hope you guys all enjoyed seeing what it's like to be at a farm. I know I really hadn't seen too much prior to starting. Actually, we did one of these tours when I was in school too, and that was really eye-opening for me. But yeah, have a good day. I hope that this was meaningful and enjoyable. So thank you.